Why is India's most wanted terrorist Dawood Ibrahim no longer at his fortified mansion in Karachi? After years as a VVIP guest, guarded by the Pakistan establishment, reports now emerge that Dawood has been smuggled by his hosts in the ISI to a safe house on the Afghan border. Multiple reports quote senior intelligence sources as saying that sustained joint efforts by Indian and US agencies have forced the international terrorist to leave his high-security mansion in Karachi's upscale Clifton area and go into hiding at an undisclosed location, courtesy, of course, the Inter-Services Intelligence. Indian intelligence agencies tracking the D Company trail suggest that a combination of factors has turned up the heat on Dawood Ibrahim and the ISI, forcing the unprecedented decision to remove him from the city to a high-security zone near the tribal areas. Sources say the ISI has grown increasingly apprehensive about a new Indo-US understanding specific to choking all funding to the D Company's network and carefully tracking down Dawood's people one by one. Prime Minister Modi and President Obama reiterated their commitment to hunting down terrorists together, with the US Treasury Department taking the decision to disrupt all financial and tactical support for networks like the Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, the D Company and the Haqqani network. But there are big questions that remain right now because, first of all, are these real reports? Could this be the first big opportunity in years for India to get Dawood Ibrahim? Is there even a concrete plan to hunt down Dawood? Can India, finally, can India bank on Washington to help bring Dawood Ibrahim into custody? Three big questions that we're going to be looking at as we head into our first discussion tonight on Center Stage. Privileged to be joined by Jaidev Ranade, former Additional Secretary with the Research and Analysis Wing, India's external agency. Also with us live from Pakistan this evening, we have senior journalist Wajahat Khan. Welcome, Wajahat. Thanks for joining us. And in just a moment from now, we will also have Lieutenant General Shankar Prasad, former Director General of the Infantry, who will give us a defense perspective on what and what isn't possible. Mr. Ranade, I'd like to come to you first. Dawood Ibrahim is understood to have enjoyed the protection of Pakistan for many years now. The reports have suddenly sprung up. They do spring up from time to time about his movements, him being sighted somewhere in Dubai. As an intelligence man yourself, you know that none of these reports can ever be corroborated or confirmed officially. But this time there's suddenly been a flurry of reports between yesterday and today, making some very specific suggestions, saying that the communications have all sort of dried up. Nobody's been able to hear anything, and it's quite likely that he's been shifted from his, from the mansion that he has in Karachi, his Clifton area, to the Afghan border. What is your initial assessment when you saw these reports, Mr. Ranade?
I would say that the cat and mouse game has begun. The ISI is trying to shift Dawood around to different locations in order to ensure that he is not targeted by the US and Indian intelligence agencies. But I would also like to add that the squeeze on Dawood, I think, had begun earlier. In fact, the Pakistanis perpetrated it by launching an attack on our consulate in Herat.
Yes.
And I think with the Modi government's coming, pressure began mounting on the Pakistanis. We saw the Indo-US joint statement that was issued during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the US, where they specifically mentioned that they will cooperate in closing down safe havens for the various organizations that in fact you listed a moment ago. So I think the ISI is now worried that both these agencies could join hands, the American intelligence agencies and Treasury Department and those in India, and target Dawood Ibrahim.
All right, so you're saying that the ISI is apprehensive, they're worried, and that's why they're trying to move him around. Wajahat, it's well known that the Pakistan establishment has always said that Dawood Ibrahim is not on Pakistani soil. They've never, admitted that he is. The Indian agencies have always said there's evidence, some of it very specific. Dossiers have been exchanged, that sort of thing, but it hasn't, really ever led anywhere. How are you reading these reports, Wajahat?
Skeptically. Perhaps I'll take a lead from your first guest's analysis. Frankly, I think it's a little naive for us to think that there's this black and white world between all these intelligence agencies, especially on the AFPAC border. I mean, just to put things in perspective, Khan Saeed Sajna, who was recently put on a terror watch list by Washington just a couple of weeks ago, just around the time your national security advisor was in Washington doing what he does with his counterparts inside the Beltway. Khan Saeed Sajna, who is a Masood Taliban leader in the Pakistani Taliban faction, was put on a watch list. And guess what happened 24 hours ago, Shiv? He started negotiations with the Pakistani military. So he's sort of thinking of surrendering arms now. And it's a long list. It's a long list of terrorists from Ilyas Kashmiri way down. Some even assess top Al-Qaeda leadership, and you know exactly who I'm talking about. Yes. Have been, well, killed, executed, apprehended, detained by joint operations between Islamabad and Washington. That means between the ISI and the CIA and both ICs at large. So I think it's a little naive for us to be very binary about this India plus US equals to anti-Pakistan.
No, which is why I'm putting up those questions.
In fact, it seems there's increasing indications that for the purposes of Afghanistan, Shiv, some of these agencies might even ironically be
No, that's one of the reasons. Wajad, that's one of the reasons why, you know, one of the questions I'm putting up today is, you know, is it too simplistic to look at this as a possible Indo-US operation, that sort of thing. But I want to bring in Mr. Ranade once again on this. The reports that have come out, Mr. Ranade, have, you know, like Wajad pointed out, have made it seem a little binary. You know, India and the US, Indo-US heat on ISI, and that's why he's been smuggled out of Karachi to a safe house on the Afghan border. My simple question to you, Mr. Ranade, right now is there, I know you're retired, you're no longer in the game, but do you get the sense, Mr. Ranade, that there is a concrete plan? Because, you know, for the person out there on the street, you know, I bet the question is, you know, this guy, you know, has been reported to be in Pakistan for so many years. His daughter has gotten married in, you know, in Dubai. He's out in the open, moves around with impunity. Is anybody going to really do anything to get him back? Do you get the sense that there's an actual plan to do something about bringing him to justice, Mr. Ranade?
That is why I started by talking about the Pakistani attack on our consulate in Herat, and pressure being mounted by Modi and his government on Pakistan immediately thereafter, including at the swearing-in ceremony. I certainly was not trying to suggest that India and US are going to join hands to tackle a problem that is essentially India's. But I think the message is very clear that we are going to squeeze Pakistan on this issue, and I think to that extent the US will try and cooperate with us for purposes of self-interest, of course. They would not like probably us to squeeze Pakistan too hard, but whatever it is, both countries have their self-interest, and whereas plans are concerned, I think that only time will tell. No one is going to share what they're going to do.
But do you see a shift over the last 10 to 15 years? Do you see a more sort of specific sort of state of play as far as the security establishment is concerned, as far as bringing terrorists back to India?
I would say that with this government there will be a focus on getting the terrorists wherever they are, if not getting them back. And with increased pressure, I would not be surprised to see greater US cooperation also.
Okay, so you're saying you won't be surprised if you see a greater degree of cooperation. Wajahat says that it's, you know, it's tough to look at it in those binary terms. But Wajahat, you know, when the Indian NSA, like you said, was doing what he does in the United States, there was also, you know, there was also a statement that was put out by the US Treasury Department at that time. Now, some people would say it's very convenient, very well timed. It was just to, you know, sweeten the atmosphere. But it was one of the most specific statements that was put out, and it actually listed the D Company. It listed, a few other outfits like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. So some would see that as an increasing amount of commitment from the United States as far as D Company is concerned, and that gives Pakistan a little less elbow room.
For the first time.
Excellent
For the first
point,
time.
Shiv.
For the first time.
Excellent point. Excellent point. And let me take you back to the fall of 2011, Shiv.
Yes.
When Hillary Clinton was visiting your capital, and in her own capital, Ghulam Nabi Fry, who was a Kashmiri lobbyist, and a pro-independence lobbyist, so to say, who was allegedly on Pakistan's payroll, was arrested by Washington authorities. And it was perfectly timed to sweeten the former Secretary of State's visit to your previous government. Listen, let's be very honest with ourselves. There's no doubt that the U.S. pivots in South Asia towards East Asia rather at large, holds India at the center of that foreign policy maneuver.
Right.
There's no doubt there's enough people in Pakistan and anywhere else in the world with sane minds who understand how New Delhi and Washington are increasingly close. But we have to understand that there's within this bilateralism and the toughness in this bilateralism, there's other partners involved. And while I agree that the statements during Mr. Dowod's visit, especially about Jaish and Lashkar and all these other guys, made perfect diplomatic sense. They were good moves. You have to understand that in a week's time, the Pakistani Army Chief has been invited over to the U.S. Central Command,
But that's always
the Pentagon,
happened.
everybody else. And these guys have their own game going on.
Yeah.
And I would just go on to say about Dawood Ibrahim and B Company, etc., etc. I grew up in Karachi, and Clifton's sort of like, for all you Mumbai walas, Clifton's sort of like Malabar Hill. It's very small, it's very rich. Everybody kind of went to school with everybody else, and everybody knows everybody else. And I have been personally for years trying to ask around which is Dawood's mansion.
Oh, come on,
And
Wajah, there are pictures.
It's a big mystery. Yeah, I've seen those pictures too, Shiv. But I'll tell you what, we heard all sorts of reports, right? We heard that he was a part of the Dubai Pact where no harm can come to him. We heard that his, he was marrying into Javed Miyazad's family.
Which he did,
we heard all sorts of official and unofficial stories.
Right.
But I would say that once again, instead of focusing on actors, which is happening increasingly in Indo-Pak bilateralism, I think saner minds like yours and your guests, and perhaps even mine, should concentrate on really, instead of brinksmanship, statesmanship.
No, that's a separate issue.
How we can all.
No, Wajah, that's a point well taken.
Escalation.
There's no argument with that point. I mean, there is no sane person would argue with that point. No brinkmanship. There needs to be, the possibility of dialogue across the table. We're talking about something much more specific here. I'm almost completely out of time, but I just want to give the last word to Mr. Ranade. Mr. Ranade, at this point of time, you've got a government that has made, these epic promises that have brought it to power. One of them was, to bring, quote unquote, India's enemies to justice. Dawood Ibrahim, for years has been the face of, the anti-India impulse, protected by, an adversarial neighbor. Do you believe that we could be at some kind of a transformative period at this point of time where it may be even believable for certain people, in India, that Dawood Ibrahim could be brought to justice?
Well, I would...
because you've been, you've been in RAW, you've been an intelligence man. I'm sure, you've seen all the things that have been said, what's possible and what's not possible. But do you sense that something could be different from here on now?
I sense that we are certainly moving in that direction. And I feel there have been enough indications of that.
Yeah.
As I said, starting from the swearing-in ceremony and his message to Nawaz Sharif, the cancellation of the contact between the two foreign secretaries because of the meeting with Hurriyat, all these have to be seen in a certain perspective,
right?
Which is a hardening of our position against terrorism, willingness to apply pressure on Pakistan to curb terrorism and to sort out the problem. And I think we are seeing things moving in that direction, and I hope the Pakistanis finally try and think that they should cooperate. Otherwise, I think there might be some unilateral actions.
All right. We're going to leave it there for the moment. This is a developing story. And the thing is, there are reports that come out from time to time about the whereabouts of Dawood Ibrahim. But as both Mr. Ranade and Wajahat will tell us, the fact is, There's no way of ever really confirming, one way or the other, the specific veracity of any of these reports. But at the end of the day, Dawood Ibrahim is a big enemy of India and he must be brought to justice. Now, just how that's going to happen is going to be up to the brand new government in the chair. Wajahat Khan and Jaidev Ranade, thank you very much. Privileged gentlemen for having you with us this evening on Centre Stage. All right, let's move on now. In a clear message to Mamata Banerjee that the centre has taken terror activities in Bengal very seriously, the Prime Minister sent his top advisor, Ajit Doval, to Burdwan today. Later, he met with Mamata Banerjee, who in turn assured the National Security Advisor of all assistance to the centre. So did the Prime Minister send a tough message on terror to the Chief Minister? Indrajit Kundu brings you this comprehensive report.
Top security chiefs in West Bengal to take stock of the Bardhaman blast probe. NSA Chief Ajit Doval, NSG DJ J.N. Chaudhary and Special Secretary to MHA Prakash Mishra met Mamata Banerjee and senior state officials at the State Secretariat.
Government of India has taken this case very seriously. That is possibly the reason why the NSA, who is a professional police officer who has dealt with cases of terror in the past, has been sent just to give a professional touch to the case.
PM Modi has put the Bardhaman probe on high priority, and the establishment's visit sent out a clear message to the West Bengal government. 2 suspected members of Jamaatul Mujahideen Bangladesh were killed in an explosion at a house in Bardhaman's Khagragarh on 2nd October. 4 arrests have been made so far, and the NIA has concluded that the IEDs recovered from suspects were destined for Bangladesh.
Such matters need to be truthfully and professionally and fully exposed so that the offenders are brought to books and punished.
Now, with the country's top security officer flying down to Kolkata, seems to have finally broken the ice, with the Bengal government now assuring every support in unearthing the Bengal terror tangle. With camera person Tapas Bari, Indrajit for Headlines Today in Kolkata.
I want to go straight across to Indrajit Kundu joining me live from Kolkata. He's been tracking every single development in this story that began with that blast on the 2nd of October. The attention being paid, Indrajit, by the centre, by the Modi government to what's happening in Bengal, Birbhum and in Burdwan right now, couldn't be any bigger. You had the National Security Advisor himself, Ajit Doval, down there in Burdwan. He's a person who's been known to be, a very accomplished sleuth himself. But an NSA actually getting down and dirty at the place of the, blast itself is almost unprecedented. Cooperation has been promised by the Mamata government. Are we going to see a much more rapid investigation pan out from here on, Indrajit?
Well, that's right. It seems to this visit seems to have broken the ice that was there between the Mamata Banerjee government as well as the Modi government, because there was stiff opposition to any central agency probe by the state government here. But finally, everything seems to be falling on a single line. Now, both the governments seems to be falling on the same page right now. The mood is much more reconciliatory, as the MHA spokesperson today said that both the parties seems to have resolved to the fact that they need to fight terror together. And that's the reason why even at this point in time, even as the NIA and the joint teams of the NIA and the state CID move ahead with its probe, we can say that some of the NIA sources are telling us that one of the prime accused, in fact, Yusuf, who used to run the Simulia Madrasa, they have been able to track him down, and hopefully we'll be able to hear something something concrete from the NIA in the next 48 hours. So the state police is working in tandem along with the NIA at this point in time, and the very length of this entire length and breadth of this entire probe is spreading not just across West Bengal but in other parts of India as well.
It's getting more sinister with each passing day. Indrajit, thanks very much for joining us with that comprehensive update. And some breaking news coming in this evening on Centre Stage. It's a major anti-graft purge by the Modi government in the banking sector that we're reporting to you now. In a landmark move, the centre has scrapped the appointments of 8 state-owned bank chairmen that were made. These appointments were made during the UPA's tenure. The move comes following a high-level panel found irregularities in the process followed in the selection of chairman and managing directors of 8 banks. The centre has also removed 14 executive directors of these banks. The investigation followed the arrest and termination of Syndicate Bank chairman and managing director S.K. Jain for alleged corruption. A panel headed by RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan during the previous UPA regime had shortlisted chairman and managing directors for 7 state-owned banks. The fresh selection process will involve the RBI governor or his nominee. After the arrest of S.K. Jain of Syndicate Bank, the centre had set up a specialised panel to examine the selections to 6 public sector banks. This is an enormous purge where you have the Modi government scrapping the appointments of chairman and managing directors to 8 high-level state-owned banks. We will be putting out that list in just a short while, and 14 executive directors, all because the appointment process was faulty.